Yo, hello, what's happening? Welcome, how are you? How is it going today, tonight, tomorrow if you're on Australia? How's everybody doing? So, yesterday we had a pretty great training with Cole Van D. By the way, let me invite some folks here who I know are in the group. See if some of y'all can make it. And if you can, well, awesome. Let's see. Who do we have? Just going to invite a whole bunch of people just to see if they can show up and participate a little bit. All right. That's just a random selection there of people I just added. So we had a pretty great training with Cole yesterday, and he went deep into his approach to copywriting. And I was personally delightfully surprised because even though I know he's a great copywriter, I didn't realize some things about his approach. Now, he's also been on my podcast too. And we talked, of course, at length there, but I was still surprised in the training yesterday at his approach. A lot of it, he said, first thing he said was, I want to be able to shift people's mindset about copywriting. So great, right? Second thing he said that really stuck with me that I loved was, he said, I don't follow a script, I don't use a template, I just know these emotional pieces that are important to put in there and where they need to be in sequence with each other. So all of this led me to thinking about mindset because, see, copywriting is like speaking, right? If you're a great speaker, you need to have a certain mindset in order to achieve it. If you are a great copywriter, that requires a certain mindset too. And we're here, a lot of us, we're in this group or we're on Facebook or whatever it is because we want to get better. We want to sharpen our skills. Hey, Jackie, how are you? So this is kind of an open forum call in the group, and I'd like any questions that you might have, pretty much about anything, but specifically if you've got something about mindset you'd like to know, raise your hand, let me know. I'll bring you on camera and we can discuss it with the group if you want. Otherwise, just hit me up in the questions and I'll answer them there for you. But let's see. As a foundational piece, I think what you need to understand about mindset first is, let's see. I keep getting distracted by these notifications. My apologies. Hey, Bob. The first thing to understand about mindset is most people confuse their emotions being real, in other words, you feel them, and they control how you experience things, with their emotions being reality. So that's a huge distinction, right? And once you can make this distinction between, okay, my emotions are real inside of me, and my emotions are reality, what's actually happening, then you've got the kind of cornerstone piece of what I would call a healthy, powerful mindset. Hey, Bob, thanks for jumping on, man. So the first thing I say we need to understand about mindset is that you have control over it, right? That's the first thing. Is there anyone here watching now, or if you're watching after this is live, put recorded in the comments and then ask your question. But is there anyone here who doesn't understand that? Is there anyone here who falls into the feeling that whatever you're feeling in the moment is a reality and not just an experience you're having? I'll wait and I'll see if I get any answers. So let's see, we've got, yeah. So that's the first thing to understand, is that we have power over our thoughts. And, you know, we're the only creatures, as far as we know, that have that ability. We can think about our thinking, right? We can meta-think. Why is that important? Well, because being able to keep yourself positive and focused and hungry and curious is a big one, is essential. These things are essential. Otherwise, what happens is you just get, Bob says feeling is what they experience in the moment. Yes, correct. So if you get lost in your feelings, right, and confuse them for objective reality, then you've sort of given away your power to determine how things play out for you in any given moment to your feelings. And feelings are, well, they're temporary for one thing. Oh, Jill just tuned in. Hi, honey. And so when it comes to mindset, the first thing to understand is that any feeling that comes up, any thoughts you have are temporary. And so once you realize that, you can begin to sort of orchestrate a system of thought editing, of paying attention to your thoughts that will continually sort of adjust your trajectory so that you can stay on a positive trajectory, right? Now, all of us have big challenges in life. Would you agree with that? And if you'd agree with that, send an emoji across or say yes, that'd be great. Just in some way, let me know that you agree with that. How many of you have known someone who a big challenge comes along and it absolutely just destroys them? It's like a wrecking ball. It just obliterates them. Does that make sense? Now, how many of you have known someone who doesn't seem to be like deeply fazed by any of their challenges? They're always able to find the positive, find the bright side. Make some noise. You must know someone like that, right? You're talking to someone like that now. So send me over some emojis or something. Let me know if you know the other kind of person. This is an interactive video here. It's an interactive live stream, so please jump in and feel free to participate. The power of being able to, there you go, Bob, thanks, buddy. The power of being able to control your thoughts and control your mindset is the power to sort of get the tires back on the road over and over again, right? What it results in is less downtime, less emotional chaos, less negativity when the things that happen in life that are bound to happen do happen, when the challenges come. Would you rather spend 3 weeks recuperating from a challenge or 3 hours? That's kind of the way to think of it. Yes, so Bob says it gets old being around those that have no control. So this is huge. This is huge. One thing that we have to understand about our minds, and I say that more holistically, like just our whole selves, is that they're not isolated, right? When we're around other people, they're like frequency receivers. And so this is why you hear people say you're the average of the your 5 closest friends, the people you spend the most time with. This is why you hear people say you've got to dump toxic relationships. All of that conversation is because long ago, some really wise people figured out that we really do sort of rise and fall to the level of the people around us. Because energetically, our minds seek harmony with other minds, right? So how big a deal is that? Think about that. In my own case, if you know me at all, or if you've read my book, you will know that I deliberately, virtually excommunicated my entire family. 3 siblings and a mother. And I had to do this because none of them were like me. None of them understood me. None of them supported me. None of them were able to just even pretend to be supportive or understanding of me being kind of a visionary, entrepreneurial, chance-taking guy. All of them subscribed to the belief that instead of wishing, hoping, dreaming for, and working for bigger things, get this, that you should shrink your expectations down to the current level of what you can create in your life. Current level of money, current level of relationships, current level of health. Well, maybe not health. They were all, half of them were fitness people. But even in that, even in being fitness people, they wouldn't really pursue it aggressively, getting healthier. And so for me, mental, physical, spiritual, financial, emotional health are 5 things I'm always pushing to improve upon, right? And by the way, a little cheap pat on the back for myself. I'm the oldest of my siblings, and I look the youngest, so that's kind of cool. And I think that speaks volumes. But more important is this: I came to a point where I realized there was no way I was going to be able to grow into who I feel a destiny to be, a responsibility to be, and be able to sort of fit into that group of people. Now, for some of you, hopefully it won't be your family, because it's hard. It's a hard thing to do. But you really, we have to ask ourselves, when it comes to what Bob said about it gets hard being around those who have no control, we really have to ask ourselves deep questions about that. How important is it to you to grow, to become what you want to be, and what are you willing to cut out of your life in order to achieve that? And then Bob also says, you become what you think about. Well, that's exactly right. It really is. It doesn't happen in the way that you might think it happens, but it happens. So Jackie says, speaking of cutting yourself away from family, Jackie says, they still don't understand, but at least my mom is starting to open her eyes to see. Well, then you should count yourself very lucky. Right? Because oftentimes parents are the least flexible in their viewpoints of their children, even when the children are grown-up adults, So, does anyone have any questions about mindset, about relationships and emotions? Can we do a true Ask Me Anything, a true Q&A here? Anybody want to jump in, raise their hand, and ask something? I kind of hoped that you guys would be a little more jumping in and asking questions here. Jackie says it just goes to show that there is hope. Well, hope is a function of mindset. So that's interesting you say that, Jackie. My son right now is a brooding teenager, 16, and he's in a mindset where he doesn't see a lot of hope with things at all. And it's very tough, very difficult to watch him go through that after all the work and growth and struggle I've gone through to craft myself a powerful mindset. And the reason for that, I believe, is because he has an example of me who is maybe kind of an extreme go-getter, an extreme no excuses guy, and he has his mother who is an extreme all excuses person, right? And so I think he's leaning towards the one that seems easier, which would be his mother's side, and rejecting everything I teach. But it's interesting, right? I try to tell him, and we can use this as an object lesson, I try to tell him that if you believe that there's no sort of hope, if you believe that there's nothing to strive for, then that'll be your reality. But all you have to do is look around in the world and see that there's plenty worth striving for, and allow yourself to feel excitement and things like that. Put yourself out there and have some vulnerability, and suddenly your whole life changes, right? All your horizons just open up. And so there is hope, but you've got to let it in, right? To sort of get right back to Jackie's point. So Bob says that, he says, I care for my elderly mom, and she is so entrenched in her ways that do not support growth. That's a tough one, my friend. That is a tough one. Especially when somebody is really set in their ways like that, it can be a soft touch, right? Because there seems to come a point for some people where they don't even care about learning new ideas anymore. They don't even care, right? So then back to mindset, how do you love and support them without getting drugged down by them? That's tough. Here's what I suggest for that. Not that you were asking for my suggestions, Bob, but here's what I suggest for that. There's a Buddhist idea that is misinterpreted in the United States, in the West, all over the place. It's frequently misinterpreted, but it basically says this. It says, clear your mind and your heart of all expectation to an outcome. Don't attach any hope for a certain outcome to your actions. And so a lot of people over here in the West take that to mean, oh, let's just float through life not caring. What it really means is detach yourself from expectation to outcome so that you can give all of your focus to each task in the moment, right? So in the case of Bob caring for his elderly mother, can you just show up with love? Can you discipline yourself to understand and feel compassion for her and who she is, where she's at in her life, and not get attached to the fact that she doesn't seem to care about change, that, any of these other things? Just let her have whatever experience she's going to have and show up with the humble heart of a servant. Serve gratefully and just let it go. It's very difficult to do, but what will happen if you can achieve it is you will find an inner peace that will allow you to connect with your mother more deeply right where she's at. What about the people that surround themselves with supportive people and like minds, but are not in a place to support your vision? Can you elaborate on that, Jackie? Jackie says, what about the people that surround themselves with supportive people and like minds, but are not in a place to support your vision? I'm not exactly sure what you mean there. By the way, while Jackie's answering, Bob, thank you. Thank you for, Bob says, great words. Oh, hi, Kathy. Kathy, I say never give up hope. My elderly mother was off the charts toxic. She had a huge life-defining experience. I saw an opening and went there for her like the norm. Then she opened up to change. Different coping tools. It has been about loving her right where she is. Yes, exactly, Kathy. And not attaching yourself to the outcome, right? Love takes on different characteristics for different people at different points in our lives. The love you give a baby, for instance, is selfless. It is, it's all-encompassing. It's 100% you giving to them. The love you give a husband or a wife, on the other hand, there's a lot of talk about unconditional love in relationships, but I don't think that that's really a healthy approach, because that's another competent, capable, willing person, right? And so if they're not meeting you and filling you as well, or if you're not both individually full and whole and complete that you can complement each other, it might not be a good match. But then when somebody reaches the end of their life, it comes back to this idea of just love them where they are. And another thing, guys, this is a little bit of a non sequitur, but loving someone doesn't mean you have to interact with them. It's kind of a bitter pill to swallow, and it flies in the face of our sort of social ideas of what love means, which, by the way, are 99% toxic. 99% of what media tells us love is, and pop songs and books, is dysfunctional. It's crazy dysfunctional. It's the idea of this explosive firework of a romantic start that just burns so bright. And oh man, let me tell you guys something. Since we're here talking about this, I have tried that my whole life, and I have found over and over again that when I subconsciously try to fit my relationships to the mold of what the world tells us love is, it just had me choosing dysfunctional, codependent partners over and over again. Only when I let go of all of that and focused on filling myself up, and then knowing that somebody who was a good fit for me wouldn't be needing to take from me, and I wouldn't be required to, put myself out for them, was I able to find something beautiful, harmonious, calm, tranquil, that grows ever deeper and ever stronger, but without any of that drama and chaos that we usually associate with being in love. Kathy says, I have a stronger relationship than I could have ever dreamed. She is now terminal, so I'm grateful that these last few days it's all good. I'm so glad to hear you say that, Kathy, because I knew you when, didn't I? I knew you when, and it's a real miracle. It's a real miracle that you have come to that. And by the way, it speaks volumes to you. I just want you to understand that. So Jackie says, I know people that smoke, let's say, or do drugs. Yes, they are of like mind. They support each other, but in a negative way. It's not really support, though. So it must be about not only being on the same wavelength, but to have a vision and support systems to reach your dreams. So that's a great idea, Jackie. In the example of drug addicts in particular, right? That's not supporting each other. That is just banding together. And I know from experience that the dynamics in a group of drug abusers, you know, alliances change all the time, like the sands in the wind. What you think is trust, what you think is loyalty, virtually never is. Usually what people confuse for supporting and friendship is a temporary alignment of dysfunctional values. So that's what you usually have amongst drug users who think that they have these deep friendships. The reason is that drugs, of course, provide different kinds of euphoria. And so when you're around other people and you feel euphoric, you tend to ascribe that euphoric feeling to those people. But really, you know, think about how many times, if any of you come from a background of addiction, how many times you thought people were your solid friends and they turned out not to be. You know, very, very common, par for the course. So when it comes to connecting with other people, in response to what Jackie's saying, that you need to be on the same wavelength, but you need to have a certain fundamental sense of your own completeness, right? You need to be someone who doesn't need other people in order to be okay. Once you've hit that, then you can be around people and just effortlessly fill up and contribute to other people. But it comes from becoming whole within yourself. So, how are we doing? How's everybody doing? You guys enjoying this? Is this good for y'all? All right. Well, listen, unless somebody has another question or would like to jump on camera and chat, I'm going to wrap it up here. I want to thank you guys for jumping on, tuning in, and hanging out. So I'll wait a few seconds. Does anybody want to jump on camera and talk about anything cool, important, awesome, interesting? How we doing? Okay, good. I think I've given enough time for any messages to come through. Thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you. Appreciate this. I'll see you around the water cooler.